right, we have a new item, or new-ish item here from Diamond Select Toys, and that is the Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport Blue Gi version over here. This is a deluxe set, comes with a ton of accessories here, optional heads as well as hands, and even chairs to do the iconic split scene. Packaging, you know, basic to all the Selects figures we see, just a little bit about the character, who sculpted it, and the artistry behind it. Now, if you may or may not be aware, Diamond Select Toys recently went through bankruptcy as part of its broader company, so we are unclear at this point of what products will still be released, if the current owner will be releasing the or putting out new products and continuing on with the licenses. So we don't know where any of these are going, but we do have a few products that recently came out and we do want to share them with you that will be available right now. So with that out of the way, why don't we open this figure up and check them out. So a closer look at what's in the tray here. We have a ton of accessories, as you can see, including 2 chairs. We got bottles, broken bottles for all the bottle kicking. We have an assortment of weapons here. He has his katanas. And then we have an alternate head, alternative hands, and we even have a base in here. So let's check some of these out really quick. This is labeled as a deluxe. So I don't know if we've seen a whole lot of deluxes. The Selects come with a few accessories, but I think this has got to be the most accessories we've seen with a Select figure before. So we'll try to get this part in for the noise there. All right, let's start with the chairs. So you can see the 2 chairs here have a little groove, and I believe this is going to be for his feet, so he could do his famous split on the chairs scene. Did not expect chairs in this set. It's kind of cool that they throw them in here. Nicely detailed. You can even see indentations in the cushioning in there. And heck, you know, for anything you got 7 inches around that scale, these could just be chairs. So always nice to have a little bit of world building elements. Here's that display base I mentioned that is included there, and this seems to be pretty standard for a lot of the figures. We see this display base where you could have the character do some kind of dynamic pose, although sometimes you can sort of overdo it and it'll end up tipping over depending on how you find your center of gravity there. We said there was a couple of alternative hands, so these look like weapon holding hands, so it would be great for the katanas. These look like sort of claw hands, that'll be great for some karate move there. And we have an alternate screaming head to go with his base head. Let's talk about the sculpts here really quick. So, I mean, it's got the likeness. This is not going to be Hasbro's photorealistic version or NECA where they get really close in the likeness. With the Selects, it's always close, but it's not going to be that level of paint application. And I think that affects the price point too. I think this is $30 for this set, and Black Series figures that have a quarter as many accessories are almost $30 right now for the basic figure. So I guess you see the difference here. This is keeping it at a reasonable price point for collectors, and there are no alternatives. There is no other JCVD figure out there. So yeah, it's not going to have the photorealistic paint application. I still think that's pretty good. But again, you're not paying, you know, what NECA would have probably charged you for this, $60 for the set or something like that. So, and there's no alternative. There is no other JCVD figure that you get right now. This is it. This is the Blue Gi JCVD. That's it. They don't have any other people are making him. I mean, so no other options. But other accessories he comes with here is the bottles. So you have 1 full bottle, 1 bottle broken at the bottom, and then a shattered bottom of the bottle. I don't think they connect. I mean, they look like they almost do, but frustratingly enough, they do not. So you have those for bottle kicking. And then we talked about an assortment of his swords. So here we go. We have a katana with a sheath, and that should fit in there nicely, I think. There we go. So you have that one. You can unsheath that. And then we have a longer sword here, and that also has a sheath. So you could put this one in here too. This one doesn't, there it goes, it sticks in, and then it comes out. So that, and then we have a short sword right here as well. So those are sort of all the swords you have there. Now let's check out this figure and his articulation. The gi does not come off. That's Blue Gi, he's on there. I think they do make one version that has the gi comes off, but it is not this version. So the gi is part of him. You can see the joints are intertwined in with the gi there. So he has that articulating elbow that we see on a lot of their selects figures. So if you give it a little, don't go too hard on these the first time out. You don't want them to break. So he does have that double articulating elbow there. He could, at the wrist, he has that articulation. The bicep turns, as you can see there, and he's got that shoulder joint as well on both sides. So it's going to be there on both sides. He's got the ball joint for the head. Let's see, for the core, he can turn left and right. He can't go forward and back, so he doesn't have a full core to engage there. With the leg, he has upper thigh. You could turn it there. He also has that ball joint at the hip. He has the double knee, and then he has the ankle as well. Pretty good. It goes left and right and then up and down. So a lot of motion there. Articulation for this figure. You can see he's easy to pose. I'm not having any problems with him toppling over. So they have a good balance on the figure, which I've seen a lot of figures just topple over. I mean, I think we were just doing the Minecraft review and we were very difficult to get those guys to stand up. So why don't we try switching out the head? I always like playing around with the accessories just to see how difficult the system is. And this one came off fairly easily. Sometimes heating these up with a hair dryer a little bit, just for a little bit, helps loosen it a little bit, and you could get the peg in there a little bit easier. We had a lot of problems with the Selects Lord of the Rings series. We just could not get those heads on easily, and I think the problem was because it had like a dome or something on some helmets, and we just had nothing to push on. But this one, again, I could see it's tough, and it's tough because it needs to be worn in, and I think that's the problem with it. So again, I'd recommend heating it up a little bit, and you'd be able to get that to click on there. But this is his angry face. I do want to get this on, but I might have to go heat it up for a second and bring him back. I almost got it there. It could just be really difficult to get those in sometimes. So that will be his face there. Why don't we try a couple of hands? We'll do some of the claw hands here. Now these have a little tab you push in, so that's why it's extra important to twist as you take it in and out, because if you just pull too hard and that tab snaps off, you are not going to be able to put anything else in that hand, because that tab will be stuck in there and then the hand will be useless. So hands are always tricky. I always prefer figures where you don't have alternate hands, because I've broken so many NECA figures that way. So I do want to show the split here, because I imagine that's the whole point of having these chairs, right? So that classic Jean-Claude Van Damme split. So let's see. They cleverly, cut it here on the side of the gi, so you can get that full split achieved. And then you could put it here in the chairs, and look at that. He gets a nice balance in there. Let's see if we get him to stand without me holding him here. So you can see how you could groove the feet in there. And now it's going to be about finding a center of gravity, which is going to be a little tricky. I think you could do it, but I would recommend just having this guy in there just to give him a little counterpoint. Now I said you could have this, gotta get this to bend. You could have this set up in the back here. Here we go. To hold him in place. And that's sort of what this is. Just give it a little assistance. I wouldn't rely on it 100% to hold him floating in midair. It's just not going to work. I've tried that a lot of times and it just doesn't. But you could get sort of the full split here with this little assistance. There we go. So now we have the full split with the assistance here, and you could see him between the chairs. And I think that's really what this is to just give you that optimal. So if you shake it around a little bit, he's not falling because it has this extra point of contact. You might be able to perfectly balance. I know some people that are really good at this and they just find that perfect center of gravity and can get a character to balance on any circumstance here. I would think you need to, oh, look at that, I just did it. So you can do it. Okay, it just takes a little bit of practice in there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You can do the full split on the chairs, classic JCVD. You have the alternate screaming head where you could do some really good poses here. You can get those weapons in his hands. We'll try that really quick. I think a two-hand weapon pose might be difficult to achieve because they don't really cross body very well. Most figures don't. I rarely see action figures unless it's like Hot Toys or well, Beast Kingdom did it pretty well, but like you need that extra articulation across the chest. And most action figures just can't get past their sort of like, you know, bicep area, or not bicep, but pectoral area. Like it gets in the way and they just can't move the arm in enough to be able to, you know, get that second hand around something. So we'll give it a shot. You can see him here gripping the katana. Let's see if we can get it far enough over that he could easily grip it with two hands. See what I mean? Like he just can't get past that right there. The pec is in the way. So I mean, I'm not getting it to move anymore without this arm popping off. What they would need is one of those rotating articulation points within the shoulder joint in order to get it in closer to be able to do a two-handed pose. Like you could bend this at the elbow, but I don't see how you're going to get it over there without breaking the figure. So you can't really do a two-handed pose. There's just no way. I'm just not seeing how to get it over there. This is it. This is about as far over as it's going to go. So a lot of figures like have problems with that. I mean, I think it was 3-0 figured out how to do that in the Iron Man. They have like the pec piece articulates out and then you can get underneath it with the arm when you're crossing it. So some manufacturers have figured out how to do that. Others, it's just really difficult to have that extra articulation point in there. But I mean, still pretty cool. He's got his weapons here, so you can give him an assortment of weapons, and he's got those sheaths, and then he's got these bottles where you could do, you know, kick and break the bottle. So a lot you could do with this figure. And then he has, of course, that full split. And that's what I like about the legs. And you can't really see that. It's hard to describe this, but they pull out and then they push in. So you can do that full split by pulling a leg out and giving you that extra articulation there, both legs. And then it gives you a solid platform here, as you see. It also makes them a little taller. So that's kind of intended for that split. So they added that extra joint in there too. So a lot of engineering went into this figure here. And, you know, like I said, he's not going to have the Hot Toys likeness of a figure. None of the selects do. You should be familiar with selects at this point, but they have fun. They have a ton of accessories. And every time we're at a Diamond Select Toys panel, they tell us the objective is to get items into the hands of collectors at a reasonable price. So they work with a lot of mixed medium. They work with a lot of resin. That's why you have the whole gallery diorama series. Still looks premium quality. Some of those look like they're made out of polystone. And they're a lot cheaper than the stone versions. So with the Selects figure, they get characters you wouldn't normally ever have. You get Lord of the Rings figures, you get John Wick figures, you get JCVD here, with a much better price point with a ton of accessories. And yeah, it's not going to be engineered like Hot Toys or Hasbro and have ultra realistic face, but it's also half the price or a quarter of the price. So that's what I think is the, the utility or the competitive advantage of a Diamond Select Toys Selects figure. So this was your look at the JCVD Blue Gi figure available right now, and this is a deluxe set. All right, just a quick look at this deluxe figure today. Ton of accessories. We did not anticipate when we saw this that it was going to come with chairs, all these weapons, the bottles, alternative heads and hands. I thought it was just a simple select figure and just a standard square packaging. It comes in this or standard rectangle packaging, comes in this giant square box with a ton of accessories, still only $29.99. So, I mean, that's a lot if you look at today's action figure market, where you have Black Series figures are like $27 or $28 and might come with like one blaster and a figure. And I mean, Marvel Legends the same. That's getting out of control. The price is just accelerating. Again, those are incorporating photorealistic face paint. That is not here, so that's one knock against the Select. But the Select is more price conscious. It gives you more accessories, and it gives you characters you would not get in another line. So there is no other JCVD action figure out there. I don't think there's any in the same scale of any of the John Wick characters or the other Lord of the Rings characters. Those are only Diamond Select. There's a lot now in the NBX market with both Super 7 and NECA, who did it like 10 years ago, is doing it again. But with a lot of their other characters, they're kind of unique to the Select line, and you're getting figures you just wouldn't get anywhere else. So that's kind of cool. So that is your look at this figure, the latest in the Selects releases. No idea if we're going to be getting any more selects. I know they had a lot of Marvel ones on the docket for this year, so we were kind of looking forward to seeing some of those. Annihilus was the big one I was looking forward to, so we will ask questions to see if those products are still coming out. Once we figure out who our points of contact are, as everything's shifted. I don't know if they have a presence at Comic-Con this year. Highly doubt it, given the breakup and the recent layoffs. But we'll try to get to the bottom of what is going on, what the plans are in terms of fulfilling current pre-orders and continuing the license moving forward. Maybe one day we'll get that Nightmare Before Christmas Wave 11. That was our dream wave to get those background characters. Who knows? We will keep asking those questions and try to bring that information to you. That is all for this time. As always, like, subscribe, and follow. See you guys next time.